Marcus gripped the control stick of his salvage ship as warning lights painted his face red. Outside the viewport, a massive Velcran warship spun slowly through the darkness of space, venting atmosphere from a dozen breaches. Distress signals screamed across every frequency. "This is human salvage vessel Phoenix responding to distress call," Marcus transmitted. "What is your status?" Static crackled before a deep voice responded. "Human vessel, this is Velcran warship Crimson Honor. We have catastrophic engine failure. Plasma conduits are cascading. We have 20 minutes before core breach. We must evacuate." Marcus scanned the warship with his sensors. The readout made him wince. The Velcran ship was huge, at least 30 times the size of his small salvage vessel. It carried over 300 crew, but the real problem glowed bright red on his screen. "Crimson Honor, I see your problem," Marcus said. "Your primary coolant line ruptured. The heat is spreading to secondary systems. If those go, your evacuation pods won't launch. They use the same power relay." "We know this, human," the voice responded, heavy with resignation. "We accept our fate with honor. You should move to safe distance." Marcus chewed his lip, studying the readings. Every species in the galaxy knew Velcran ships were masterpieces of engineering, but they were also incredibly complex. Their systems integrated in ways that made repairs difficult. What should be a simple fix became impossible because everything connected to everything else. But Marcus saw something the Velcrans might have missed. "Crimson Honor. I can fix this," he said. Silence filled the comm channel. Then, "Human, our chief engineer says repair is impossible. The plasma conduits cannot be accessed while the system is active. Shutting down will cause immediate core collapse." "Your engineer is right," Marcus agreed, "for normal repair procedures. But I'm not planning normal procedures." "Explain." Marcus took a deep breath. "I need to EVA to your engineering section. I'll manually vent the damaged conduits directly to space through your hull breach. The rapid cooling will stop the cascade. Then your engineers can reroute around the damaged sections." Another long pause. "Human, that is insane. The plasma temperature in those conduits exceeds 2,000 degrees. The radiation alone would kill any being who gets close." "Not if I'm fast," Marcus said, already pulling on his EVA suit. "And not if your engineers vent the sections in sequence like I tell them. I'll be exposed to each conduit for maybe 5 seconds. My suit can handle that." "No suit can handle that. Human suits can." Marcus sealed his helmet. "We build them tough because we're not as naturally resilient as species like yours. We need our equipment to keep us alive, so we make the best equipment in the galaxy." He could almost hear the Velcran commander thinking. The warrior species prided themselves on bravery and honor. They would die rather than show fear, but they also valued practical solutions. "Very well, human," the commander said finally. "We accept your assistance. Transmitting coordinates for docking." Marcus maneuvered his small ship close to the massive warship. The Crimson Honor loomed above him like a metal mountain. He could see the jagged tears in its hull where something had ripped through the armor. Debris floated everywhere. He locked his ship to an emergency port and cycled through the airlock. A Velcran warrior met him inside, towering at least 7 feet tall. The alien's skin had a deep purple hue and his eyes were solid black. He wore battle armor that looked like it could stop a missile. "I am Commander Thane," the Velcran said. "You are either very brave or very foolish, human." "Marcus," he replied, extending his hand. "And probably both." Thane looked at the offered hand for a moment, then gripped it. Marcus felt the incredible strength in that grip, but the commander was careful not to crush his comparatively fragile human bones. "Follow me," Thane said. "We have 17 minutes." They ran through corridors filled with smoke and emergency lighting. Velcran crew members rushed past carrying equipment and wounded. Some stopped to stare at the human in the battered EVA suit running alongside their commander. The engineering section was chaos. Consoles sparked and smoke poured from damaged panels. A team of Velcran engineers worked frantically, their faces showing the stress of imminent death. The deck vibrated beneath Marcus's feet as the engines groaned and shrieked. "This is the human who believes he can save us," Thane announced. The chief engineer, a female Velcran named Cora, looked at Marcus with obvious skepticism. "No offense, human, but our best minds have found no solution." "None taken," Marcus said, moving to a console. "Can you display the conduit network?" Cora pulled up a holographic schematic. Marcus studied it, his mind racing. Red sections showed the damage spreading like infection through the ship's circulatory system. He traced pathways with his finger, calculating angles and timing. "Okay," he said. "Here's what we're going to do. I'll go EVA outside the hull breach. You're going to open emergency vents on conduits 7, 12, and 18 in sequence. The plasma will vent into space. I'll use my suit's emergency coolant to freeze the vent points after each release, creating temporary seals. That stops the cascade. Then you can shut down those sections and reroute power." Cora's eyes widened. "That means you will be directly in the path of superheated plasma." "Only for a few seconds each time," Marcus said. "I'll position myself above the vent points. The plasma will shoot past me. As soon as each burst finishes, I drop down and freeze the vent. If the timing is wrong by even 1 second, you will be vaporized," Cora said flatly. Marcus grinned. "Then let's make sure the timing is right. I'll count down on the comm. When I say vent, you vent. Exactly when I say." "Can you do that?" Cora straightened. "I am Velcron. My precision is perfect. Good enough for me." Marcus made his way to the airlock nearest the hull breach. He checked his suit systems 3 times. The oxygen read full. The emergency coolant tanks read full. The radiation shielding showed green. Everything was as ready as it would ever be. He cycled through the airlock and stepped into open space. The Crimson Honor stretched above and below him, a vast landscape of metal and damage. Stars glittered in the distance, cold and uncaring. His magnetic boots locked to the hull as he walked toward the breach. "In position," Marcus reported. Beginning approach to first vent point. He climbed through the torn hull into the engineering section's outer structure. Heat washed over him immediately. His suit's cooling system kicked to maximum. Warning indicators flashed yellow. The conduit he needed loomed ahead, a massive pipe that glowed cherry red. Steam and radiation shimmered in the vacuum. Marcus positioned himself on a beam directly above the emergency vent port. "Ready on conduit 7, he said. "Venting in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, vent now." The emergency port blew open. A column of superheated plasma erupted into space like a dragon's breath. The beam beneath Marcus's feet grew hot even through his magnetic boots. His suit's radiation alarm screamed. The plasma burst lasted 3 seconds. The moment it stopped, Marcus dropped to the conduit and aimed his suit's emergency coolant dispenser. A stream of liquid nitrogen shot out, freezing the vent mechanism. Ice crystals formed instantly. The vent sealed. "Conduit 7 sealed," Marcus reported, breathing hard. "Moving to conduit 12. "Acknowledged," Cora's voice came back. "Your suit temperature is approaching danger levels." "I know," Marcus said, already climbing toward the next position. "I'll cool down between vents. How much time left?" 14 minutes to core breach." Marcus moved faster. His muscles burned with effort. The EVA suit was never designed for this kind of acrobatic movement. He wedged himself into position above the second vent point, anchoring his boots on a structural support. "Ready on conduit 12, he called. "Venting in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, vent now." The second plasma burst was larger. The heat was incredible. Marcus felt like he was standing next to a star. His suit's outer temperature gauge hit 900 degrees. The cooling system struggled to keep his internal environment stable. But again, the burst was brief. Marcus dropped and froze the vent. Ice met superheated metal with a crack that he felt through the hull. "Conduit 12 sealed," he gasped. "Last one. Conduit 18. "Marcus," Thane's voice cut in. "Your suit is taking damage. Perhaps we should stop." "We stop and you all die," Marcus shot back. "Not happening." "Where's 18? Cora guided him through the twisted metal. Marcus climbed over broken support beams and around shattered panels. The third vent point was deeper in the damage, harder to reach. He had to squeeze through gaps that barely fit his suit. When he finally reached position, his oxygen read at 60%. The suit cooling system was at 80% capacity, just trying to manage the ambient heat. Warning lights covered his helmet display. "In position," Marcus said. "Let's finish this." "Venting in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, vent now." The third burst was the worst. Conduit 18 was a primary line, carrying more plasma than the others. The eruption was twice as large. Marcus's suit temperature spiked to critical levels. The outer layer began to char. His radiation exposure alarm went from yellow to orange. He counted in his head. 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds. The plasma kept coming. Something was wrong. "It's not stopping," Marcus shouted. "The vent mechanism is damaged," Cora responded. "It will not close!" Marcus made a split-second decision. Instead of waiting, he dropped directly toward the open vent while plasma still erupted from it. He angled his approach so the stream missed him by inches. Heat seared his suit. He could smell burning plastic inside his helmet. He hit the conduit hard and jammed his coolant dispenser directly into the vent opening. He held the trigger down, dumping the entire contents of his emergency tank into the mechanism. The nitrogen hit the plasma stream. For a terrible moment, Marcus thought he had just made things worse. Energy and cold met in a violent reaction. Then the plasma sputtered and stopped. Ice spread across the entire vent assembly, freezing it solid. Marcus collapsed against the conduit, gasping. His suit temperature was redlining. His oxygen was at 40%. The radiation exposure reading made him not want to look. All 3 conduits sealed, he wheezed. Cora, can you reroute now? Yes. The engineer's voice was excited. Yes, the cascade has stopped. Rerouting power now. Marcus lay against the hot metal and watched through the breach as the Crimson Honor's emergency lights shifted from red to yellow. The vibration in the hull decreased. The groaning of stressed engines quieted. Core temperature stabilizing, Cora reported. We are safe. The human did it. He actually did it. Marcus heard cheering through his comm. He smiled despite his exhaustion and the concerning smell of burnt circuits in his suit. Human Marcus. Commander Thane's voice was formal but warm. You have saved 347 lives today. The Velcrin do not forget such deeds. Just doing my job, Marcus said, slowly climbing back toward his ship. Salvage and rescue. It's what I do. It is far more than that, Thane replied. Please return to the ship. We must tend to your injuries and discuss appropriate reward. Marcus limped back through the airlock an hour later, after Cora's engineers had stabilized the ship's systems. Medical personnel immediately scanned him. The radiation exposure was significant but not fatal, thanks to his suit's shielding. He would need treatment, but he would be fine. They led him to the command center, a vast chamber filled with tactical displays and crew stations. Commander Thane stood at the center, looking every inch the warrior leader. The entire bridge crew turned to watch as Marcus entered. Human Marcus, Thane began formally. You have rendered the Velcran people a service beyond measure. By our oldest laws, such a deed must be rewarded with equal honor. Really, that's not necessary, Marcus started, but Thane raised a hand. It is necessary. It is law. It is our way. Thane gestured, and 2 guards stepped forward. Between them walked a Velcrin female. She was stunning. Her purple skin was a lighter shade than Thane's, almost lavender. Her black eyes held fierce intelligence. She wore simple clothes rather than armor, but she moved with a warrior's grace. Her hands were bound in ceremonial chains. This is Vera, Thane announced. She is of noble blood, educated in strategy and combat. According to our highest tradition, we present her to you as bondmate, a companion to honor your deed. Marcus's stomach dropped. Wait, what? No, I can't accept a person as payment. That's wrong. Confusion crossed Thane's face. She is not payment. She is honor. She will serve you, fight beside you, bring you glory. I don't want anyone to serve me, Marcus protested, looking at Vera. She stared back, her expression unreadable. I'm sorry, but humans don't do this. We don't give people as rewards. Everyone should be free to choose, Thane looked genuinely puzzled. But this is our greatest honor. To refuse is to insult us. Marcus opened his mouth to argue further, but Vera suddenly moved. In one fluid motion, she crossed the distance between them and grabbed his arm. Her grip was strong, urgent. She leaned close, her black eyes wide with something Marcus recognized. Fear. Come with me, Vera whispered, her voice tight. Now before they realize what I am, please. Marcus looked into those desperate eyes and made his decision in a heartbeat. He nodded slightly. Vera turned to Thane and spoke in a formal tone. Commander, by tradition, the bondmate and her new companion must spend time alone to seal the bond. We request permission to retire to the human's vessel. Thane nodded approvingly. Of course, it is proper. Go with honor. Vera pulled Marcus toward the exit, moving quickly but not so fast as to raise suspicion. The guards removed her ceremonial chains. As soon as they were in the corridor, she picked up the pace. Act normal, she whispered. Do not run. Do not look back. What's going on? Marcus whispered back. Not here. Get us to your ship. I will explain everything, but we must leave before he realizes. Before who realizes what? Before my uncle realizes that he just gave his greatest enemy her only chance at freedom. They reached the docking port. Marcus's small salvage ship waited beyond the airlock. They stepped through and Marcus sealed the hatch behind them. Only then did Vera release his arm. She turned to face him and all the fear he had glimpsed earlier was now visible. "I'm sorry to drag you into this, Marcus, but you are now in terrible danger. We both are." "Start explaining," Marcus said, moving to the pilot's seat and beginning pre-flight checks. "My name is Vera, and I am niece to Commander Thane. He is not just a ship commander. He is an admiral who controls the entire 7th Fleet." She took a shaky breath. "And he is a traitor to our people." Marcus's hands paused on the controls. "That's a serious accusation. I have proof." Vera pulled a small data core from a hidden pocket in her clothes. "For months I tracked unusual communications, ship movements that made no sense, missing supplies. I thought at first my uncle was simply corrupt, taking bribes. But it is much worse." "How much worse?" "He is selling military secrets to the Hask Collective, our ancient enemies. He's giving them everything they need to invade Velcran space." Her voice shook with anger and despair. "I tried to report this to the High Council, but Thane discovered my investigation. He had me arrested as a traitor. For 3 weeks I have been his prisoner." Marcus began to understand, and this reward ceremony was his way of getting rid of you. "Exactly. By giving me to you as bondmate, he exiles me forever. I am bound by law to stay with you. If I return to Velcran space without you, I am dishonored and can be executed." It was the perfect solution for him. He appears generous and honorable while removing the only person who knows his secret. "But you still have the proof," Marcus pointed out. "Yes. That is why we are in danger. Thane gave me to you thinking I would stay silent to preserve my life. But he does not understand humans. He does not know that you would refuse me, that you would see the truth." Vera looked at him with desperate hope. "Will you help me? Will you help me reach the High Council before the invasion begins?" Alarms suddenly blared throughout the ship. Marcus's console lit up with warnings. On the view screen, the docking clamps began to close, sealing his ship to the Crimson Honor. "Warning," a computerized voice announced. "This vessel is being detained by order of Commander Thane. Do not attempt to launch." Vera's face went pale. He knows I told you." Marcus's jaw tightened. His hands flew across the controls. "How long until this invasion?" 48 hours. Maybe less. "And how far to the High Council?" 4 days at standard speed." Marcus grinned, and there was something wild in his expression. "Good thing I've never been much for standard anything. Strap yourself in. This is going to be rough." "What are you doing?" "Getting us out of here." Marcus fired up the engines to full power. "And then we're going to save your people. But first we survive." The docking clamps locked into place. Warning lights flashed. On the comm channel, Thane's voice boomed. "Marcus, you are making a grave mistake. Return Vera immediately." "Sorry, Commander," Marcus replied, his fingers dancing across the control panel. "But I just learned something important about humans. We really don't like being told what to do." He overrode the safety protocols and diverted all power to the engines. The small salvage ship's thrusters screamed in protest. Metal groaned. The docking clamps began to strain under the force. "Marcus, those clamps will not break," Vera shouted over the noise. "I know," Marcus said calmly. He pressed a button. "That's why I'm not trying to break them." Small explosive charges detonated around his ship's docking collar. It was emergency equipment, designed to let a ship escape if the docking mechanism failed. Marcus had never actually used them before. The collar blew free with a bang that rattled their teeth. The ship lurched backward, suddenly free. Alarms screamed as atmosphere vented from the damaged port. But Marcus had already sealed the internal hatches. Velcran security ships launched from the Crimson Honor, moving to intercept. Marcus spun his ship and fired the main engines. The little salvage vessel shot forward with acceleration that would have impressed a racing pilot. Vera was thrown back in her seat despite the safety harness. "How is your ship this fast?" she gasped. "Humans are fragile compared to most species," Marcus explained, weaving through incoming fire. "So we build fast ships. If we can't take a hit, we don't get hit in the first place." Plasma bolts streaked past the viewport. Marcus rolled and dove, his piloting purely instinctive. He had spent years navigating asteroid fields and debris zones. This was just another obstacle course. "They're gaining," Vera warned, watching the tactical display. "Not for long," Marcus said. He pulled up a star chart. "See that nebula?" Vera looked where he pointed. Her eyes went wide. "The Serpent's Throat?" No, no, you cannot be serious. Every species in the galaxy knows that nebula is a death trap. The magnetic interference destroys navigation systems. Ships that enter never come out. Ships with normal navigation systems don't come out, Marcus corrected. He aimed straight for the swirling clouds of gas and energy. But human ships have backups for the backups, and human pilots learned to fly before we had computers. We can navigate by hand if we have to. This is insane. Marcus laughed. Yeah, probably. But you know what? Humans have a saying. If you're not cheating, you're not trying hard enough. The pursuing Velcran ships broke off as Marcus approached the nebula's edge. They knew better than to follow. Thane's voice came over the comm one last time. You are dooming yourself, human. The nebula will kill you both. Maybe, Marcus agreed. Or maybe humans are just crazy enough to make it through. Guess you'll find out. He cut the comm and looked at Vera. She stared back at him. This strange human who had saved her life twice in one day, who was now risking everything to help her save her people. Are you ready? Marcus asked. Vera straightened in her seat and nodded. I am Velcran. I do not fear death. Good, Marcus said. But just so you know, I'm not planning on dying today. Strap in tight. And Vera? Yes? Welcome to the human way of doing things. We're going to break every rule, ignore every warning, and somehow make it work anyway. He pushed the throttle forward. The ship plunged into the serpent's throat, into the swirling chaos of magnetic storms and sensor-destroying interference. The viewport filled with purple and green energy. The hull rattled. Every instrument on the console went haywire, and Marcus, grinning like a maniac, flew straight into the impossible, betting everything that human stubbornness and skill would see them through. Behind them, the Crimson Honor grew smaller. Ahead lay a journey that no one had ever survived, but then again, no one had ever tried it with a human pilot before. The serpent's throat lived up to its deadly reputation. Purple lightning arced across the viewport as Marcus's ship plunged deeper into the nebula. Every screen on the console flickered between static and useless readouts. The navigation computer gave up entirely and displayed nothing but error messages. I have lost all sensor data, Vera shouted over the howling alarms. We are flying blind! Not quite, Marcus called back. He tapped a panel near his knee and a mechanical device rose from the console. It looked ancient compared to the digital screens around it, all physical dials and liquid-filled tubes. Analog backup systems, no computer chips to scramble. Old-fashioned physics. Vera stared at the primitive instruments. You navigate with this? My grandfather installed it. Said a pilot should never trust only what a computer tells him. Marcus watched the fluid levels shift in the tubes, responding to gravitational changes in spatial density. These measure real physical forces. Magnetic storms can't fool them. The ship bucked hard to port, Marcus corrected without thinking. His hands moving on the controls like a musician playing an instrument. Another wave of interference washed over them and the lights dimmed. Power fluctuation, Marcus muttered. The magnetic fields are trying to drain our systems. Vera, I need you to manually regulate the power core. There's a panel behind your seat. Keep the output steady at 60%. Vera unbuckled and crawled to the panel Marcus indicated. Inside was a maze of conduits and regulators. Which ones? The blue ones control flow. The red ones vent excess. Keep the pressure in the middle range. Vera's hands moved quickly, adjusting valves as the ship shook around them. She was a warrior and a strategist, not an engineer, but she learned fast. The power stabilized. Good. Marcus grinned. You're a natural. I am motivated by not wanting to die, Vera replied dryly. They flew for hours through the chaos. Marcus navigated by instinct and his grandfather's old instruments, making constant tiny adjustments. He avoided the brightest energy discharges and followed the paths of least resistance through the swirling gases. Vera watched him work with growing amazement. No Velcran pilot would attempt this. They relied on their computers, their sophisticated systems. When those failed, they were helpless. But humans built redundancy on top of redundancy, and when all the technology failed, they fell back on raw skill. How did you learn to fly like this? She asked during a brief calm moment. Marcus shrugged. Started piloting when I was 12. My parents ran a mining station in an asteroid field. I learned to navigate by feel before I learned the computer systems. Dad said the best pilots were the ones who treated their ship like an extension of their own body. 12 years old? Vera was shocked. That is a child. Yeah, well, humans tend to throw ourselves into things early. We don't live as long as most species, so we don't waste time. Marcus rolled to avoid a massive magnetic vortex. We figure we'll learn by doing, and if we mess up, we fix it and try again. The ship groaned as another energy wave hit. This time sparks flew from a console. The smell of burning circuits filled the cabin. Secondary power coupling is blown, Vera reported, reading the gauges. We are losing thrust. Marcus checked his instruments. The ship was slowing, and in the nebula's chaotic currents, losing speed meant losing control. They would be caught in a magnetic vortex and torn apart. Can you reroute from the tertiary system? He asked. What tertiary system? Humans always have a tertiary system, Marcus pointed. Yellow conduits. They're emergency backups. Connect them to the main drive. Vera opened another panel and found the yellow conduits. They were smaller, clearly not meant for this kind of load. These will burn out under full engine power. They only need to last until we clear the nebula. How much longer can the primary couplings hold? Vera checked. Maybe 10 minutes. And we're about 30 minutes from the nebula edge. Marcus made a quick decision. Connect the backups. We'll alternate, run on primary until they fail, switch to tertiary, let the primary cool, then switch back. We leapfrog our way out. That is an insane plan. You got a better one? Vera connected the yellow conduits. The ship's power stuttered, then surged back. They flew on. For the next half hour, they performed a dangerous dance. Every few minutes, one power system or another would overheat. Vera would switch to the backup while Marcus adjusted their course to compensate for the power fluctuations. Warning lights covered the console like a festival display. Then gradually, the purple chaos outside began to thin. The magnetic interference decreased. The digital screens flickered back to life. I'm getting sensor readings again, Vera said excitedly. The nebula is ending. Marcus allowed himself a small smile. Told you we'd make it. They burst out of the serpent's throat into clear space. Stars glittered peacefully. After the chaos of the nebula, the silence felt strange.